I would always get upset when TV channels and TV networks would show Christmas-related things and Christmas-related shows during the middle of the year. There was no need for it. Show it at Christmas time. Do it at Christmas time. And yet here I am doing a retro review of a film that is turning 30 years old and is Christmas related. So I can't bloody well talk. The film I'm here to talk about catapulted a young 8-year-old child into superstardom, and it is revered as a Christmas classic. And I'll give you a clue into the title. So, here we are with another retro review. Home Alone was written and produced by John Hughes, directed by Chris Columbus, and it stars Macaulay Culkin, Daniel Stern, Joe Pesci, Catherine O'Hara, and John Hurd. If you just tuned into this channel for the very first time, please hit that subscribe button so you can follow this channel. Hit that alarm bell so you can get notifications from me when my videos are going to be uploaded, and hit the like button as well. Because right now I'm currently doing a retro review of films that are turning 30 years old, and there will be more reviews to come. Home Alone tells the story of an 8-year-old kid called Kevin McAllister, a very troublesome young man, brilliantly played by Macaulay Culkin, who is accidentally left home alone by his family when they go off on a trip to Paris. Kevin gets up to all types of mischief when he's up in his house, but then he must defend his home against two burglars, Harry and Marv, brilliantly played by Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci. Home Alone was the film that everybody was talking about in Christmas 1990. It was a film that was heavily advertised, and more importantly than that, it was a film that differentiated itself from other films at that time. The story of a troublesome kid was something that we'd seen done before in 1990 with a film called Problem Child, starring Michael P. Oliver, the late John Ritter, and Amy Asbeck. But Problem Child was more puerile. It was more gross out before gross out became the in thing in the late 90s and the early noughties, when we had a resurgence of films such as American Pie and Road Trip. What differentiates Home Alone from Problem Child is in the clever writing. Home Alone was written and produced by the late great John Hughes. John Hughes gave us some of the most iconic and some of the most classic films from the 80s and the 90s. He gave us such hits as The Breakfast Club, starring Emilio Estevez. He gave us one of my personal favourites that I used to watch frequently when I was a kid in college, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, starring Matthew Broderick. He gave us the classic Planes, Trains and Automobiles, starring Steve Martin and John Candy. He then re-teamed with John Candy again in 1989 when he gave us another lovable film, Uncle Buck, which starred a young Macaulay Culkin. John Hughes is an excellent writer. He knows how to structure scenes. He knows how to write good character. He knows how to write good narrative. He knows how to set scenes up perfectly, but more importantly than that, he knows how to execute the scene perfectly. So he doesn't do comedy for comedy's sake. It's all on a lead up. And he knows how to write relatable characters that you can actually have some type of sympathy and empathy for. Home Alone has a very clever script. It's got great dialogue, it's got some snappy one-liners, and it's got great performances. And it is a film that will appeal to both children and adults alike. And 30 years on can still do that. And out of the 5 films that have been released in the Home Alone franchise, Home Alone 1 stands as the best. Let's talk about the cast in this film. Macaulay Culkin, as an 8-year-old child holding this film, he had his work cut out for him. Whereas in 1989's Uncle Buck, he was relegated to the role of co-star. There was no emphasis on him. It was more of an emphasis on John Candy as Uncle Buck, building up a relationship with his aloof niece Tia, and trying to rebuild his relationship and try to prove that he's a reliable partner to his girlfriend Shanice, played by Amy Madigan. Home Alone, Macaulay must hold our attention as the troublesome Kevin McAllister. And he does. He gives an excellent performance. And he's also backed up by some very, very strong support. And again, which is typical of John Hughes, he has written a film where he takes us through what an 8-year-old kid would have done, and again, what we wish we would have done when we were kids. But also, I love the transition that we see this boy go from immature, troublesome child to showing some form of maturity when he goes out and does the shopping. The lady asks him at the cashier register, she asks him, okay, where do you live? And he says, I can't tell you that. She says, why? And he says, because you're a stranger. Again, snappy writing from the late John Hughes. Also, the rest of the supporting cast. John Hurd and Catherine O'Hara as the parents, excellent. They not only provided great dramatic support, but they also provided good comedic support as well, especially with Catherine O'Hara. The highlight of this film were the two burglars, Daniel Stern, Joe Pesci. Excellent. Great rhythm between one another, great comedic chemistry between one another, and it was a pleasant surprise to see Joe Pesci playing such a slapstick role. Joe Pesci is one of the most eclectic actors of his generation. He hasn't done that many films, but the films that he stars in, it's hard to believe that it's the same guy that did previous roles. So such films as Raging Bull, where he played Jake LaMotta's brother. He then played Leo Getz in a comedic role in Lethal Weapon 2. He would then play the psychopathic Tommy in Goodfellas. And then in that same year would play a slapstick burglar. His comedic timing, his comedic delivery was impeccable. And comedy is a very, very difficult thing to nail. Home Alone also has a very, very great musical score, produced by the legendary John Williams, who's conducted such hits as Indiana Jones, Star Wars, Superman. So his musical score just adds to the film. And it is a beautiful soundtrack to a really beautiful film. And also I love the relationship between Kevin and Old Man Marley, the man that he begins to fear at the beginning of the film, but then after getting a chance to know him, realizes that he's okay. The two talk and exchange words with one another. And the high point is when Old Man Marley rescues Kevin in the end of the film. There was a guest appearance by another John Hughes collaborator, the late, great John Candy, as Gus Polinski. This was an amalgamation of two of my favourite characters of his, Uncle Buck and Del Griffith. And even though he's not in the film that much, his charm, his warmth, his kindness adds to the film when he helps Kevin McAllister's mother on a trip back home to Chicago. But the high point of Home Alone, where Kevin has to defend his house against the burglars, that is where you will get laughs from adults as well as children. And it is a brilliantly executed scene with lots of slapstick moments, very, very funny, very, very entertaining. And you really have to wonder what type of family have raised a child to fire pellet guns into people's crotch, hit people in the head with paint cans, burn people's head with a blowtorch. You know what I mean? It's like 30 years on, it makes you think. Home Alone still holds as a Christmas classic. Great writing, great set pieces, great performances, and again, the best out of the Home Alone franchise. And you know that you have done well when your film has been spoofed by other films. Hot Shots 2 spoofed a line from Home Alone. Even gangster rapper Snoop Dogg paid homage to Home Alone, where he did the opening sequence for his film Gin and Juice. And it wasn't even Home Alone, it was Homeboy Alone. So you know you've done your job. That child called his mama a dummy in the very first film. I could never get away with that. I can't even say, I couldn't even argue with my mum, because if I did, easily Macaulay Culkin's most iconic performance. I'll give Home Alone a very, very strong 9 out of 10. So that's my review. Like I said in the beginning, please hit that subscribe button. Help the channel grow, because there will be more reviews coming on a consistent basis. The alarm bell as well, so you can get notification from me when my videos are going to be uploaded. Leave your comment with how do you feel about Home Alone 30 years on? Does it still hold its own? And I shall see you on the next film review. Take care.